People today are constantly chasing shortcuts to learn faster, apps that promise fluency in 3 months, courses that claim to compress years of knowledge into a few weeks, memory tricks that look almost magical. But beneath all this noise lies a forgotten secret used by the Stoics more than 2,000 years ago and echoed in the wisdom of the East. This secret isn't complicated. It doesn't demand advanced systems or hidden formulas. It's so simple that most people dismiss it before giving it a chance. And that's precisely why it works. Today we're going to uncover that secret. And before we dive in, if you want to keep learning about practical philosophy that can transform your daily life, subscribe to this channel right now. That way, you won't miss reflections that could change the way you think and live. The real problem is not a lack of information, but an overflow of it. We live surrounded by too much, too many books, too many podcasts, too many experts to follow. This abundance creates an illusion that learning faster means consuming more in less time. We binge-watch lectures at double speed, skim through articles and jump from one idea to another. But at the end of the day, very little stays with us. This shallow learning drains energy and creates frustration because it confuses exposure with mastery. The Stoics knew this. And the Japanese Zen masters also warned, knowledge is like water held in your hands. If you don't close your fingers around it with attention, it slips away. Seneca used to warn against the temptation of collecting wise sayings like someone collecting pretty stones. He said it was useless to memorize ideas if they didn't shape the way you lived. To the Stoics, true learning meant transformation, not accumulation. And here lies the first key. Learning fast doesn't mean running through content. It means anchoring knowledge in a way that becomes part of who you are. The Japanese had a similar practice with shuhari. First you learn the form, shu, then you break it, ha, and finally you transcend it, rai. Both the Stoic and the Zen approach point to the same truth. It's not about speed, it's about depth. The human mind forgets quickly what it doesn't use. It's like a muscle that weakens when not exercised. That's why the Stoics insisted on daily review and reflection, and why Zen monks practiced Zazen every morning, not for new knowledge, but for constant reinforcement of awareness. True speed comes from consistency, not intensity. Someone who applies one idea every day learns faster than someone who crams 100 in one sitting. This quiet constancy, whether Stoic or Zen, is what sustains real progress. Another powerful tool both traditions used was writing. Seneca wrote letters, not just to teach, but to digest what he had learned. Marcus Aurelius filled his journals with reminders, even though he was emperor. In Japan, samurai kept journals of their training and reflections, not for others, but for themselves. Writing is not passive consumption, it's active transformation. When you write, you translate knowledge into your own words and anchor it in your memory. That act alone accelerates learning more than any trick you'll find online today. Then comes contemplation. The Stoics practiced it by meditating on principles like discipline and resilience. The Japanese practiced it by sitting in silence, looking at a rock garden or a single tree, asking, "How can this lesson live in me today?" To contemplate is to focus, and focus is the opposite of the noisy consumption we confuse with learning today. When you give one idea your full attention, it penetrates deeper, faster, and more effectively than rushing through dozens. Behind all this lies a mistake as old as humanity, the search for shortcuts. People want results without the discipline of repetition, without the patience of practice. The Stoics said this was a trap. The Zen masters said the same. Better to dig one well 100 feet deep than 100 wells 1 foot deep. True acceleration comes from going deep. Rushing only slows you down. Consistency is what speeds you up. That's the irony. The path that looks slower ends up being the fastest, and that's where the forgotten secret begins to reveal itself. Learning quickly is not about consuming more. It's about transforming the little you do consume into something real, embodied, lived. The Stoics practiced it. The Zen masters lived it. And you can too, starting today. The real difficulty when we try to learn faster doesn't lie in the information itself. It lies in how we deal with our own minds. The Stoics understood this long ago. The greatest obstacle is not the lack of teachers or books, but the habits within us. distraction, impatience, and the illusion of mastery. We believe that knowing is the same as understanding, and that understanding is the same as applying, but they are not. This is why most people spend years studying and still feel stuck. The Stoics warned against this confusion, and so did the Zen masters. Both pointed to the same truth. You don't really know until you embody what you claim to know. The Stoics made a clear distinction between episteme, knowledge, and praxis, practice. To know a concept is not enough. It must be lived. Marcus Aurelius said that talking about self-control is meaningless if anger controls you in the heat of the moment. Confucius taught something similar. To know and not to do is not yet to know. Both West and East point to the same problem: superficial learning. We often stay at the level of information and we never move to transformation. That gap between theory and lived reality is what slows learning down more than anything else. Now look at our modern life. We can watch 10 lectures in one afternoon, read dozens of articles in a week, but if we don't put anything into practice, the knowledge vanishes. The mind feels full, but it's only an illusion. It's like eating food without digesting it. You don't gain strength, only discomfort. Seneca compared it to the body. Food must be digested and turned into blood, muscle, and energy. In the same way, ideas must be digested through reflection and action. Zen has an almost identical warning. The monk who memorizes sutras but never meditates is like someone counting other people's money. He knows the numbers, but he is still poor. Real speed comes when knowledge is transformed into your own flesh and blood. This is where the discomfort comes in. To truly learn, you must sit with the idea, repeat it, test it against reality. The Stoics did this with daily exercises. The Japanese samurai did the same, repeating one sword cut thousands of times until it became reflex. Today we avoid this because it feels slow, boring, uncomfortable. But that is the irony. It's the discomfort that creates speed later. A swordmaster knows that one cut perfected is worth more than 10 techniques half learned. A Stoic philosopher knows that one principle lived is worth more than 100 quotes memorized. Another point the Stoics emphasized was anticipation. Marcus Aurelius prepared himself each morning, reminding himself that he would meet people who were ungrateful, unjust, or selfish. By anticipating reality, he was ready to apply philosophy in practice. The Japanese samurai did the same through mushin, the mind without mind. They trained so deeply that when battle came, the reaction was immediate without hesitation. This anticipation and preparation accelerate learning because they connect theory to the exact moment of need. You don't freeze in the face of difficulty because your practice has already carved the right response into your mind. Our modern problem is that we confuse exposure with mastery. We think speed means scanning through as much as possible. But wisdom traditions, both Stoic and Zen, tell us otherwise. Speed comes from focus. In Zen, a monk can spend months contemplating a single koan, a paradoxical phrase like, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" The point is not to answer quickly, but to stretch the mind until clarity bursts forth. That process seems slow, but when the realization comes, it is permanent. In the same way, repeating one Stoic principle, focus on what depends on you, day after day, might seem boring. But when a real crisis hits, the principle arises instantly, saving you from despair. That is true accelerated learning. Comparison also creates conflict. On social media, we see people showcasing dozens of skills and achievements, and we feel behind. The Stoics warned against this trap. Progress is not measured against others, but against yourself. Lao Tzu said it simply: "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." Learning faster is not about catching up to others, it's about deepening your own roots. If you go deep into even a handful of principles, your growth will be faster and more solid than trying to skim across dozens of topics out of envy or anxiety. And then there is patience. Strange as it sounds, patience is the key to speed. The Stoics saw patience as active resistance, enduring discomfort without surrender. The Japanese had the concept of gammon, perseverance, enduring with dignity. Both traditions understood the paradox. Those who try to rush are slowed down by shallow results, while those who are patient and consistent achieve mastery much sooner. It is like water shaping stone. At first it looks too slow to matter, but given time, nothing resists it. What looks fast ends up fragile. What looks slow ends up unshakable. So the great conflict is not out there, it's inside. It's not about lacking resources or methods. It's about our own restless habits, impatience, distraction, and the constant craving for shortcuts. The Stoics diagnosed it 2,000 years ago. The Zen masters diagnosed it in their temples, and both offered the same medicine: slow down, deepen, repeat, embody. That is the battlefield of learning. It is not about hacking your brain with tricks, but about facing yourself again and again, until what you know and what you live finally become the same thing. That is when speed truly begins. After understanding the forgotten secret of the Stoics and the inner conflict that holds us back, we arrive at the most important part: resolution. How do we apply these lessons in our daily lives so that learning actually becomes faster, deeper, and more transformative? Both the Stoics of the West and the masters of the East left us a map. And the map is not about speed in the superficial sense, but about direction, discipline, and constancy. Let's look at how their practices can guide us today. The first resolution is to create a daily ritual of learning. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal each morning or evening. Seneca used letters to sharpen his understanding. In Japan, samurai and monks did the same, through diaries, through calligraphy, through recording their reflections. Writing is not about producing something polished. It is about digesting what you've learned, making it yours. 10 minutes a day of writing about one idea is worth more than hours of passive reading. The Stoics and Zen monks knew this. The hand that writes engraves the lesson in the mind. If you want to accelerate learning, pick up a pen and make writing part of your study ritual. The second resolution is immediate application. Knowledge without use vanishes quickly. The Stoics said philosophy should be practiced in the marketplace, not in isolation. Zen Buddhism says enlightenment is meaningless if it cannot be carried into washing rice or sweeping the floor. If you read about patience, test it in the traffic jam on your way home. If you study discipline, apply it by following through with a small promise you make to yourself. Every lesson must be tested in life. This immediate translation from thought to action is what anchors learning. And the more you anchor, the faster you grow. The third resolution is conscious repetition. Marcus Aurelius wrote the same principles dozens of times. This wasn't redundancy, it was training. The Japanese call it keiko, practice that refines the body and the mind. A martial artist repeats the same strike endlessly until it becomes instinct. A calligrapher repeats the same character until the brushstroke flows naturally. And a philosopher repeats the same principle until it rises spontaneously in the moment of need. Many people run from repetition because it feels tedious. But repetition is the real shortcut. It's not a waste of time, it's the sharpening of the blade. When the moment comes, a single cut is enough because you have prepared for it 1,000 times. The fourth resolution is reduction. Too much information is poison. Seneca warned that those who hop from book to book gain nothing solid. Zen teaching is the same. Chase 2 rabbits and you catch none. The secret is to go deep into a few principles instead of scattering your attention. Focus on 3 or 4 pillars of knowledge and revisit them daily. Your progress will be faster than trying to skim through dozens of topics without depth. Simplicity is speed, elimination is acceleration. Both Stoicism and Zen agree that clarity comes from subtraction, not addition. The fifth resolution is strategic patience. This may sound like a contradiction. How can patience lead to speed? But patience, as both East and West knew, is not waiting passively. It is endurance with intention. The Stoics saw it as the strength to withstand hardship without breaking. The Japanese call it gammon, the dignity of enduring with perseverance. Real growth is cumulative. 5 minutes every day will take you further than occasional bursts of intensity. A drop of water seems weak, but given time it carves stone. The same is true of learning. Patience is not the enemy of speed. It is the foundation of true, lasting acceleration. Another resolution is self-examination. The Stoics recommended reviewing each day. What did I do well? What did I fail to practice? How can I improve tomorrow? In Zen, monks reflect on their thoughts and actions after meditation. In Japanese Nikan practice, people review their day by asking, what did I receive? What did I give? What troubles did I cause? This daily honesty makes growth immediate. Instead of drifting for months without realizing mistakes, you catch them the same day. That quick feedback loop is one of the fastest accelerators of learning you can cultivate. And finally, the last resolution is integration. Knowledge must not remain in fragments. It has to be woven into the way you live, into who you are. For the Stoics, philosophy was not a lecture, but a way of being. For Zen, wisdom was not words, but the posture of sitting, the way of walking, the silence between breaths. Integration means there is no longer a gap between theory and life. What you know and what you do become one. At that point, learning itself changes. It is no longer forced. It becomes natural, effortless, continuous. That is the true meaning of learning fast. Not rushing, but embodying. In the end, the forgotten Stoic secret, mirrored by the wisdom of the East, is this: slow is smooth, and smooth becomes fast. To learn quickly, go deep. To advance rapidly, be patient. To gain mastery, repeat with intention. To truly know, apply immediately. The world chases speed through shortcuts, but both the Stoics and the sages of the East show us that the fastest path is the steady one. So take one idea today. Write it down. Reflect on it, apply it, repeat it tomorrow. Be patient with yourself, but consistent. Do this and you will be living the forgotten secret. And over time, you'll notice that while others are still chasing shortcuts, you have already built real wisdom into your life. That is how you learn faster. Not through more, but through deeper. Not through haste, but through harmony. And that is the path that will stay with you forever.